introduce us about yourself?
I'm Shakil Ahmad. I have qualified UPSC examination and currently I am posted as Deputy Commissioner of Income Tax in Srinagar.
Before qualifying civil services examination, what were you pursuing?
Immediately before qualifying UPSC examination, I was working in a bank. So I left that banking job. I resigned from there and went to Delhi for UPSC preparations.
Why did you leave banking job and pursue civil services as a career?
So I had gotten introduced to civil services, UPSC especially during my MBA days. I was doing Masters in Business Administration, and one of my friends we used to discuss matters, and one of the matters obviously was career aspirations. So in one of the conversations, he dropped this idea of a bureaucrat in Indian system of politics or administration. So from there, I got certain cues about this examination, and then some bit of preparation I did after my MBA. After finishing MBA, I started doing preparation for UPSC. But somehow, because of certain circumstances, maybe that's beyond the scope of this interview, that's very personal to me, I had to join this service. I had to join the bank. So after joining the bank, I worked there for almost 3 years, and in between some events happened. So already there was that aspiration I was well aware of this bureaucratic setup, the importance or the examination you have to go through to be a part of that circle. But the trigger that happened was during the banking days in itself. So with the passage of time, after 3 years, it was getting a little boring in bank, little monotonous. And since I had already been introduced to UPSC, one day I took the final decision that yes, I don't belong to this world alone, or I should not restrict myself professionally to this banking job. I should not end up retiring in this bank job. So that was the moment I took the decision. Yes, I have to do something, maybe if you call it bigger in that sense. Maybe I have to take up a challenge that is more that's a bigger challenge, that I have to take this hardest or the most difficult test of the country to prove myself, and to maybe to not only to prove to myself, but yes, to put myself through that rigor, so that I can be in a place where I can give something back to the society that I am capable of and do justice to my abilities.
How was the journey?
The UPSC journey, after once I quit my job, although I did not tell my parents, I told my brother that I have to quit the job and I'll go for UPSC preparation. It was the story of triumphs and travails, if I have to say. It was like the crests and the troughs in a wave. There were good days, there were bad days, but yes, what kept me going in this process was the support from the family, the support from the friends, and then my belief in myself that yes, I belong to this space, I belong to this level. And I, during this process, kept it very simple. I kept it simple in the sense, don't think too much about the outcome or the results. Be true with the process, be seriously true with the process, do all the things that you are supposed to do or the process mandates. That's how I fought it. In fact, I would like to recount not one of the incidents exactly, my frame of mind during those days when I decided to quit the bank job. One fine day when I was discussing this with my, I think, sister and my parents about quitting the bank job and going for UPSC preparation and all. So I wrote one line for myself that goes like, "Na ho ना उम्मीद ख्याल नाकामी से, न हो ना उम्मीद ख्याल नाकामी से कि तेरी जद्दोजहद ही तेरी जीत है." So that one line, that couplet in itself sums up most of the things that I have encountered and how I have encountered the challenges that you face in preparation.
Since the exam constitutes of 3 stages, prelims, mains and personality test, and prelims is considered to be the most competitive and most challenging. In fact, it's considered to be the uncertain part of this whole exam. How did you prepare yourself for prelims, given its unpredictable nature and its diciness?
So again, in this type of an exam, you rightly pointed out, it's a long run process. It tests you almost across your preparation lasts around 1.5 years, minimum to 2 3 years, etc. So your mental frame has to be very balanced. You have to be very balanced, and you have to think long term. So especially regarding the prelims, since the pattern also, that the orientation of the paper also changes across time, so you have to factor that also. But what I did in my process was try to make sure that you give time to the various aspects of the prelims examination, or the various parts of the prelims examination. Like we always discuss about the dynamic part of the prelims examination, that's about the current affairs, etc., and the constant or the basic part that we mostly read from NCRTs or the basic books and all. You have to make sure you strike a balance between those two. So first thing first, what I did was I tried to strike the balance between the two, and then not thinking too much about the results, because at that prelims stage, if you put your thought into this, what will happen if you start raising questions about what will happen after prelims, etc., etc., you get entangled. So mentally I was able to free myself from all those, if I have to say, the burdens, by keeping the process simple and saying to myself, yes, do the balancing thing, do devote equal time or the proportionate time towards both the parts, dynamic as well as this, and then referring back to syllabus every now and then, referring back to previous year papers, etc., and going through the test series. So you have to somewhere down the line have faith and take the leap of the faith. You cannot do all the things right. You cannot envision or you cannot prepare for all the things. So you have to, in your mind, understand the fact that there are certain uncertainties, and you live with those uncertainties. But a balanced approach always pays off. Whether the percentage of the questions in the dynamic part or the current affairs part is more, if you have devoted good enough time to that, done the answer writing practice or done the mock tests, etc., it will turn out on the day. Because if I have to again put in my personal experience, what I've seen is across the months of the preparation, it gets all summed up in your mind. There's a bit of chaos, but what happens at the time of the examination, your mind works in a wondrous way. It's a miracle, because most of the things you are able to recount, because in those moments or in those hours, your mind works like a great well-oiled machine. So all the things that you have read thoroughly, you will be able to recollect all those things, and you will be able to answer the questions.
Take us through the mains journey, because it's a 5 days back-to-back examination, and it brings with it a lot of pressure and anxiety. So how did you equip yourself and prepare for mains?
So mains preparation, again, I'll go back to those days. If I travel back in the time, first thing first, the ecosystem where I prepared, Jamia Millia Islamia Residential Coaching Academy, it's a wonderful ecosystem. It gives you the opportunity, that space provides you the opportunity to interact with the peers, with other aspirants, etc. So that interaction also helps you chisel yourself and be prepared for the process. And then in the process itself, I found some good friends. I used to do, in particular, I used to do group studies with a couple of my friends. Were 3 friends who qualified prelims in the same year, mains same year, and we sat in the interview together. That was one wonderful thing that happened. So I think that group study where you could evaluate yourself, that peer evaluation. So we would choose topic, distribute topics, etc., and then we would write answers. We'll cross-check each other's answers. So that made the process easier, and it enabled us to have an introspection, a regular introspection of the things, so that we are focused. Because again, as I said, whole of the process, it's like diving, if not in a sea, but in a lake, if you have to make an analogy. You don't know what's going to come in your way. But in that process, you have to make sure that you know things what are important from the point of view of current affairs, what's happening around, etc. You know most of the things. So more the interactions, more the group studies, you increase your chances of better answering those questions.
What was your optional subject, and how did you prepare for it?
My optional was sociology. Preparing sociology, I think it came naturally to me. From the very first go, the reason for selecting sociology as a subject was, I think most of us, we can qualify as amateur sociologists if you are a keen observer, etc. So it invoked certain bit of interest in me, so that helped. Having interest in the subject, that helped. And then I focused on answer writing also. That also helped, because in a subject like sociology, you have to be very broad in your approach, you cannot restrict yourself. Then regarding subject material, etc., I again was very focused because of certain things. Like in my preparation, I did not have much time, I had to work rather against time, so I kept my sources very limited. I took hold of one of my friends. I could get some class notes of one coaching center, so I focused on that as one of the primary sources. And then I read from standard books, like everybody knows Harlambus is considered it's the Bible of sociology. For every aspirant who has the subject of sociology, you must be knowing about that. And similarly, there were other books also that I specifically refer to in sociology. But what I did is, in my preparation, whenever I used to refer to any reference, I used to make notes so that I can refer back to those notes when it comes across the process, so that retention increases, maybe the understanding increases. So these were two three main things. Besides, everybody follows a standard template, making sure that you devote good bit of your time to subject. I did answer writing also, and plus I kept my sources limited, so that the possibility or the probability of wastage here and there, wastage of time, wastage of effort, I tried to minimize that.
When you cleared UPSC mains, civil services mains, and was called for the interview, how was the how was the mood and how was the entire preparation for the interview? Because there is a myth around UPSC civil services interview that it's one of the toughest interview in India, and
So again, it's a story. The day I came to know that I have qualified mains examination, I have to sit in the interview. So we were traveling. I was traveling with my friends. We had gone for a trip, etc. I was driving. So one of my friends, one of my very close friends, he's a brother to me. He said that I want to drive. So I told him, yeah, I just started driving, so let me. Yeah, he said, no, 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 I want to drive. Please, you park the vehicle somewhere. So when I parked, he said, there's a news for you. That is, the mains result has come out. So do you want to check it? So, that again was that moment of realization that all the efforts I have done across the year, it boils down to this moment. So by the stroke of luck, if the destiny has it, you'll be in the list. So I cannot maybe narrate the feeling. It was mixed. It was overwhelming, because all the preparation, simply, it's a plain fact. It boils down to that flash on the screen, whether your roll number is there or not. Come what may, whatever you have done, it doesn't matter. So I told him, I put my hand on my heart. I said, yeah, now that you have disclosed this to me, अब तो देखना ही पड़ेगा भाई, अब चारा नहीं है. So when we checked, so it was the air. I could that was a moment to behold, I must say. So I was there in the list. It added to the celebrations we were doing, or it added to the fun in the trip. So that's how I came to know about my results. So it was in itself an event. We're 6 friends in the same trip. So after that, it started the UPSC preparation. Again, I would because that's one of the good things I had done in my life, was that I could find good friends in my preparation time, especially the friends with whom I prepared. As I told you, that we're 3 friends from the Jamia who qualified prelims, mains, and sat in the interview together. So again, this preparation of interview was again a part of our group study. It was enjoyable. It was enriching. So that helped us navigate the labyrinth at that point of the time. That obviously was stressful, but you could minimize, or that stress used to get diluted by the fact that you had very good friends who understand you, who have faith in you, who trust you, who are with you. So then after, as usual, the standard template is you try to brush up your knowledge about things. You try to make sure that you are having the idea of what's happening around. You are abreast with current affairs happenings, and sat in the mock interviews. And again, as I said, group interviews, we do mock interviews of each other also. My friends took my mock interviews. That's I think that helped a lot, because the type of the evaluation your friends can give you, that matters a lot, and it can help you break that threshold, because with your friends you have certain inhibitions, etc. I remember one of the mock interviews, my dear friend Khalid and other friends were there in the, as the interview panelist, because speaking in front of your friends, it's a different type of a challenge. It's there, it's how our brain works, it's how our brain functions. So fighting those odds, fighting that type of the challenge in itself enables you to grow as a person, enables you to refine your personality, and that did turn up well in the time of the interview. It went for almost 30-35 minutes, but I could not, it did not feel like लगा कि भाई चुटकी में खत्म हो गया, because I enjoyed the interview. It was very nice, and I scored good, very good in interview. That's why I landed quite decent, with a quite decent rank. I scored probably around 201 marks in interview.
Which is considered to be one of the highest marks in that year.
Yeah, I think maybe the highest was around 210, but yes, more than 200 is always considered top notch. Only handful of the persons get that 201. But yes, during the interview itself, when I came outside, my friends were waiting for me outside. When they saw me, they could see that smile on my face, that glow on my face. They said that we know how your interview has been. I was expecting good marks in interview, so it was all destined. Stroke of luck, if I have to say.
So, how did the interview started, and like, what is the first thing that happens in the interview? Take us through that journey through that day. Actually, when you step into the interview board, what are the first few seconds, the moment you step inside the board, and how is the atmosphere inside, and what actually like? Take us through that whole ambience.
So again, if I have to say, it's a very personalized experience. Every interview is a different story. So the thing that will be same in every interview, I believe, is once you are into that board, every other thing does not matter to you. That's your life at that point of the time. So the time and space gets so manipulated that you live into that moment. There's nothing else you can worry about at that point of the time. So you are wholly focused, physically, mentally, you are 100%, more than 100% in that process. First few minutes, yes, you are a bit apprehensive, you are a bit jittery. It takes up maybe 2-3 minutes to calm yourself, to calm the nerves, and it depends what is the approach of the interview board. Most of the interview board members are very cordial. They want a free interaction, they want a free flow of, they want it to be very dialogic, so that they can understand what type of the personality you are. They can understand your point of view. Most of the interviews are cordial in that sense, but yes, 2-3 things are there. First is that for first 2-4-5 minutes you should be prepared, in the sense it happens on certain factual lines. They go through your DAF, etc. You should obviously know about yourself. You have all those things. You should know how to present all those things, because from those cues, from the answers you give in the first 4-5 minutes, it decides the trajectory of the interview. As the person who has faced this interview always tell other aspirants, you should be able to drive that interview in the direction you want, rather than letting the interview board to decide. So that depends on your answers, what cues, what hints you drop there, because they are also interested in knowing you as a person. And the bottom line of every interview is you have to know yourself. So the better you know yourself, the better you will be able to perform there.
Do you remember some of the questions being asked by the board?
So there were many questions about, I was expecting that also, about Kashmir. There were certain questions about my previous job, banking job, etc. There were certain questions about international relations also. So like one of the question was about how will you serve the people outside your state, etc. The cultural differences, the physical distance, the barrier of the language, etc. How will you cope up if you are posted in a faraway place like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, etc.?
What was the response for that?
So the question was like, you are saying that you are ready to, you want to serve people, etc. You have that element of public service in yourself. What if you are posted in a faraway place like Northeast or Kerala, etc.? So I most of the time we prepare all these questions. We expect, we foresee, or we contemplate about, we discuss all these questions. But at that moment, I'll not say it was a moment of epiphany for me, but it was a moment of realization for me at that point of time. I just took a pause of, maybe I can vividly recollect it. I took a pause of 1 or 2 seconds and I answered, people matter more to me rather than places. So I stopped it there. So I think that conveyed a lot in itself. It needed no explanation. Went well. I felt good about that answer. That time also, and today also, whenever I recollect that moment, I feel good about it because I had never thought about it in particular. Although I had discussed it with my friends, etc., or in multiple mock interviews, but on these lines, having a ready-made answer, I had never come up with any ready-made answer.
How was the life post your selection in civil services?
It was, if I have to say in one word, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was enriching. It expanded the horizons for me because coming from a small place in Srinagar, coming from a village, etc., you have all your limitations. You with all those limitations, physical, cultural, economic, etc. So I could break those barriers and to be with the people who have qualified this toughest examination, this most sought after examination in India. That was wonderful in itself. And it was a great learning experience.